Welcome to day 6 of the story that writes back, Decodement and writing sessions. So, if you're not familiar, I'll just go over the structure of these lives. So first, I read a passage from Sozwik. There's actually 2 books in the Sozwik series. And then we decode the passage as a mirror for all of us, because everything has wisdom that we can apply to our lives and our reality. And then after that, we get into a quick silent writing session together. So that's the structure. And Sozwik is a story I wrote consisting of 2 books, like I said, about an extraterrestrial Sasquatch shaman who comes to Earth and finds himself in the middle of a secret war. There's so many themes interwoven together, and we go through some of these themes in this series. So, today's theme is integration. And how I'm viewing integration right now, because a word is coming along with that. So it's integrating a new level of self and a new level of service and a new level of purpose. And the word that comes along with that is stewardship, or being a steward. So instead of the me, mine, it's I'm a steward of something greater. I'm a steward for a higher purpose. I'm a vessel of a higher purpose. That's another way of putting it. So this notion, this theme of stewardship is really important. And I found a little passage in Sozwik Book 2 that epitomizes this for Sozwik, and I'll talk about it with me and how it applies to all of us too. But there's a few moments, and we can all relate to this. There's usually not just one turning point moment, especially when it comes to your purpose and stewarding something greater than yourself. There could be one that is kind of more dominant or more prominent than the rest, but it's usually a series of things. So Sozwik does go through a series of things that opens him up to a greater purpose, where he surrenders into being a steward of a higher mission. And here is one of them, and it might be the biggest one. So, for a little context around this is after Sozwik rescues some children. I won't get into much detail because, it could be some spoilers for the reading experience. But Sozwik does rescue some children from child trafficking and horrific stuff. And it kind of connects to the stuff that's in current events right now, related to the Epstein stuff and those kind of dark rabbit holes of the level of abuse that's been happening on our planet. And I wrote this in 2021. I probably wrote this scene, maybe 2022, something like that. So, yeah, Sozwik rescues some children. And as he's reflecting on that, and he's taking care of these children at this safe place, and he's learning from the guy who owns this place that has experience rescuing children and doing secret operations, as he learns more of what's happening, it ignites a fire for him. And first, it's like anger, like what happens with a lot of people. But then he deepens into this higher purpose. He deepens into a sense of stewardship. And that's the passage that I'm going to read. So it's this turning point of stewardship, this integration of stewardship for Sozwik. Okay, here we go. This is page 136 of Sozwik, Book 2. They both stared blankly into the distance, thinking, feeling. You need some rest, Sozwik. Munchu said gently. I know you Jotai are robust, but you should get some rest while you can. I'll take care of the children. Don't worry about them. They're safe. Sozwik just nodded. There are some big hammocks downstairs, Munchu instructed. Thank you, Sozwik replied. He gave the children another glance. They seemed content enough, then made his way to the hidden basement. As soon as he laid down in the hammock and closed his eyes, his thoughts assaulted him. With so much action over the last couple days, he had no space to process it all. The children, the terrible experiments, the torture, the cages, the cold laboratory rooms, the trockles, the twisted humans who serve the guard, explosions, running, so much running. Then Sozwik's mind drifted to Saren, his parents, Goa, everyone else. I miss Saren, but the world I knew, our home valley, doesn't even exist anymore. My mission is here, though. The more Sozwik relaxed his body, the more mental chatter squeezed out of his mind. How are we even going to defeat the guard? As far as I know, the plan is just a general idea. I've never seen specifics. I know the guard is scrambling, but how do we end its control once and for all? A distinct voice cut through his mental chatter. Let go of the how. The message silenced his incessant thinking, then was followed by, trust the divine unfoldment. The guidance left Sozwik with an afterglow of peace and contentment, like a warm hug for his soul. He drifted off to sleep, knowing that whatever happened was all for the highest good. Even if the mental chatter returned tomorrow, for now, he could surrender into trust. So, that is Sozwik's moment of letting go and surrendering to a higher level of purpose, to being a steward of something beyond himself. And he always was to some extent, but that was like a huge turning point, a huge surrender. And it's nothing crazy action-wise. It's him processing what he went through the last few days with like saving children and then taking care of them. And this reflects so much for all of us. Because usually these realizations, like the realization of why you're here, your purpose, the realization of what you're stewarding, what you're called to be a steward of, the greater purpose you're here to be a steward of, that comes in those moments where you're processing what you've gone through. Like, damn, like how did I make it through that? Or, damn, that was so intense. Or, I learned a big lesson from doing that. That's where that comes, in those moments of processing. And then there's also a big surrender moment there. Because in this, Sozwik's like on the verge of falling asleep and he's got all this mental chatter. And then a voice cuts through the mental chatter. Let go of the how, the voice says. And I leave it kind of ambiguous as to what the voice is, But it says let go of the how. And then it says trust the divine unfoldment. So there is a big theme of letting go, of surrender. Because to get to this level, the next level of your purpose, the next level of stewardship, it's not about trying harder. It's not about analyzing or strategizing better. It's about surrendering. Because you get to the point where it's like, this is bigger than me. And me trying to analytically solve everything isn't working here. So you get to that point where the analytical mind, the over-strategizing doesn't work anymore, and you surrender. You let go. You trust a higher force, and then you become a steward of a higher purpose. And I feel like right now, we're all learning that in a major way, because the more you cling, the more you're in your head, The more you try to plan and strategize everything in your life, the more suffering it's going to create. Surrender, letting go, trust, faith, these are huge, important themes for all of us right now. I know I'm learning that. And this also brings up what I realized even years after writing Sozwik, that these aren't my books, you know? On a more truthful level, they're not my books. I'm a steward for these books. I'm a steward for Sozwik. I'm a steward for these themes. And that changes how I approach it. And that also fuels why I don't give up, you know? Because it's not about me. It's not my book. I'm a steward for this, and there's powerful messages and transmissions in these books. So as the steward, as the humble messenger, I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to reach out to people. I'm going to send the book to different companies and organizations and whatever. Because it deserves to be spread in a greater capacity. And that shift, it's interesting how letting go in that way, letting go of mine, and being more in the paradigm of a steward, it creates more bold action. So it's not necessarily like the hustle and the force, but it's bold action. Like, I'm going to talk about this boldly. I'm going to email this book to this organization. I'm going to do lives talking about it. That kind of stuff. Because I take my ego out of the equation. I take my doubts out of the equation. It doesn't matter. My doubts, the self-conscious stuff of Stephen Parato's ego, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It dissolves into irrelevancy in the light of being a steward of this. And I feel like this is going to be a bigger and bigger theme in my Soulful Writing Collective, because I'm going to recommend this more and more to everyone who joins, and actually create ways to deepen this process of surrender. Because once anyone who's writing poetry or stories or song lyrics or anything, once you make that flip, once you surrender into being a steward, that's when you unlock greater levels. That's when your actions become bolder and more opens up. Because more is opening up for Sozwik as I get more into stewardship. So that's a key point for everyone thinking about joining the Soulful Writing Collective too. And a little piece of advice if you're in that camp, if you're a conscious creator who writes things that activate people's consciousness, to be a steward. And we'll do more stewardship stuff in the Soulful Writing Collective. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And the writing prompt for today will help deepen this for you too. So I'm going to say the writing prompt, and then I'll give you a few seconds to get ready before we get into the writing. But the writing prompt is directly related to this. What are you being called to be a steward of right now? What are you being called to be a steward of right now? So you can grab a notebook, pull up a document, wherever you want to write, and prepare for this writing session. And then, like all the other days, you can write whatever you feel called to. If there's a project you want to work on, you can write that. If you just want to write from the heart, you can do that. If you want to use the prompt, you can do that too. So the prompt is there for those who want a little structure. And again, the prompt is, what are you being called to be a steward of right now? All right? And I'm going to give 5 minutes for this writing session. And I'll remind you when the 5 minutes are up, and then we'll wrap up this live. All right, let's flow. All right. Wrap it up. You can keep flowing if you want to. You can leave yourself a note, and get back to it if you want. It's awesome what just 5 minutes of writing in collective energy can do. It can be really strong. It's a different quality than writing alone. So in some ways, it can feel like a deeper experience, which is cool. And then I'll hint at tomorrow's live. Tomorrow's live is The Return. And that's the last one of this series. And then, if you want to get the Sozwik books, you can get it at Sozwik.com. And then I also have the Soulful Writing Collective. I'm putting that together. It's the beginning of that. We're starting to gain momentum. So if you write anything that activates consciousness, stories, poetry, songs, really anything that activates consciousness, then the Soulful Writing Collective might be for you. And the intention is for us to come together and help each other spread our work. Help our work reach the right people and do the work it's meant to do in the world. And to help decode and see the deeper wisdom in each other's work and reflect that to each other and share what's working and what's not working and collaborate to even pioneer new ways of marketing and publishing. That's the vision. So if you want to get in on that, I'll put the link to the Soulful Writing Collective wherever I can. And since we're early, you have a big opportunity to help shape the vibe and the direction of this community. And that's it. I'll see you tomorrow for the last part of this series, The Return. All right. Sending you lots of love. Thank you, thank you, thank you.